Welcome everyone to the IndyCar1909.com 200 from Pocono Raceway tonight. This is the Belly Up Sports Cup Series for the Elite Racing League, and bringing you the pictures tonight will be David Huckleberry, the producer, myself, David Wetsergreen, the announcer, and my co-host Zach Evans. And we are racing on a triangle tonight, Zach. You know, popular debate of late. 3 turns or 5? What's your take on it, buddy?
It's 3 for me, dog.
Heard. I'm a 5 truther myself. The Milwaukee. That's 2 turns over there in turn 3.
Well,
On
you also
Milwaukee,
have
but
that South Carolina education, so that somehow that doesn't surprise me.
Pocono's a pretty divisive track. Definitely an exciting one when you get the right car in combination. I think some of the guys were a little bit apprehensive about the possibility of this race being very much a clean air and single file draft style race tonight with this next gen car. I'm wondering if we're going to see some crazy, pit strategies or tire strategies. Maybe some guys staying out trying to get off cycle with the race leaders that shakes this race up a little bit, because Pocono's pretty famous for those strategy races, wouldn't you say?
It is, and I think it'll go one of two ways based on the history of the Cup Series, especially since the move to the next gen platform here in Elite at this racetrack. Either we'll get nice and strung out on these nice long straightaways and wide corners, and we'll have a long green flag run that could see some different strategies, or we're going to tear up a lot of stuff and have 8, 9, 10, maybe even 11 or 12 cautions. It's happened before here. And then you get different strategies because people throw on tires at different times and at different cautions. So it'll be interesting to see which style of race we get, because traditionally speaking, historically speaking, it is one or the other. There is no middle ground here at Pocono.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And with that, Dave Huckleberry has our championship standings up. Only 2 races into an 18-race season. But you'll note that both Ethans are labeled in green. Those are 2 drivers that are locked into our playoffs, the winner of our Daytona 500 and then last week's race at Texas, Burrell and Stanley, respectively. Good start for both Ethans there tonight.
Indeed, and of course you see Tate Lytle most points out of the drivers without a win so far. I don't know what statement I'm taking back according to race control. I don't know if that was the shot at the Clemson education, or being able to count to 3 instead of 5, or the possibility for a bunch of cautions. We'll hopefully get a follow up on race control on that. I don't do well with cryptic messages, but nothing cryptic about Ethan Burrell's performance so far this season. You see him
No.
atop the scoreboard, so to speak.
Yeah, Ethan has been the dominant, I think, driver. And at Pro Edge, the dominant team, you see their 1, 2, 3 right there, just in front of 2 of those Lake Norman Motorsports cars in Ethan Stanley and Tyler Fode. And remember, the point standings here are including a drop week. So David Tooker, I think, finished last week at Texas, but because he is able to take advantage of that drop week, Tooker is able to retain 3rd place in points, and he'll be, I believe, racing tonight, though I don't know that I saw him in practice. Yeah, we're without David Tooker once again tonight. So Tooker will be falling out of 3rd place in that running order. We're also without 3rd place finisher R.C. Anderson from last week tonight as well. So a couple of big hitters going to be missing this one tonight.
Indeed, and that's these drivers do get one drop, so it's not the end of the world. But I don't think any driver loves to use their drop before you absolutely have to, right? You want to save it
Mhm.
for a night where you don't have a great showing, not necessarily an evening where you flat out aren't on the racetrack.
Yeah, right, you are. And looks like qualifying is wrapping up. I'm not seeing anybody else on track. I think Corey Abbott's trying to finish his lap. But Ethan Burrell currently the pole sitter and continuing a extremely hot start that Corey has put, or that Ethan has put together. And we've got Goody in the booth with us. Goody, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, not too bad. I just crashed the party. Just wanted to wish my mom a happy birthday. Just had to get that out of the way, and hope she's enjoying the broadcast. I know she likes listening to you two boys having fun here tonight.
That we are. Zach's already been slamming on the South Carolina schools tonight. So hopefully the Wisconsin driver does a little bit better than the South Carolina schools are right now.
Well,
But Goody, how's the car? How's it looking tonight?
I think it's going to be hard because I qualified in the back, and I think track position is going to be pretty important here. But I'm feeling pretty good, pretty confident. If I can keep my mama's face clean on the hood of the hood of this Miss Goody's Goody Chevrolet, I think I'll be all right.
That we would agree with that. There might be some yellows, so we'll see you. We'll see you maybe later. Hopefully in Victory Lane tonight.
Hell yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? Exactly.
Yeah, heck yeah. Well, you boys have a good night. Happy birthday, Mom.
Well, thanks to Michael Goodman, as always, one of the better dudes here around Elite Racing League. And we'll fire up the starting lineup here as we grid on the front straightaway of Pocono Raceway for this IndyCar1909.com 200. Ethan Burrell on pole for, I believe, the third time this season. He is really qualifying strongly to start this 2024B campaign. Chad Frankenfield will qualify on the outside of the front row. Fortunately for him, he won't be able to take the first turn 3 wide. Corey Abbott and Tate Lytle will make up row 2. Gavin Hibbs, Matthew Weeks make up row 3. Tyler Fody and Scott Crump, Lake Norman Motorsports teammates, are on row 4. Justin Wadsworth and Nick Massey on row 5. Ty McIntosh and Zachary Rogers there in row number 6.
Row 7, you have Ryan Gable in the 01, Trey Holmes in the 88 car. Starting 15th, Ethan Stanley. Of course, we mentioned him coming off the win at Texas 1 week ago. He'll start 15th. Leighton Norgard joining him on row number 8. The 9th row is Nick Indelicato in car number 10 for Shift Esports, and Andrew Rucker driving the 64. In the 10th row, we have Josh Robin in car number 8, Ryan Schold in the number 4 for Little Eagle Racing. Starting 21st, Jordan Owens for Mountain Man Motorsports. Starting 22nd, Justin Vandermarl in the 80 for Fueled Up Racing. A little further back, starting 23rd, Justin Fortner in car 26, and Richie Hearn will start 24th.
Chris Wright will start 25th there, and Jeff Green, the 2000 Busch Series champ, will roll from 26th, I believe making his first start of the season. Johnny Thomas goes from 27th, and Michael Hosack goes from 28th. Brent Jones will start 29th, and Seth Rawls will go from 30th. Brandon Ultra makes his season debut in the 45 car from 31st, and Jesse Racimus, 6th in points, will start 32nd. Chris Stouffer starts 33rd. Joshua Personette rolls from 34th. Jonathan Cutliff, not a great qualifying effort from one of the faster drivers in the series. He'll start 35th and look to make some passes going up through the field. Jake Scarborough will roll from 36th. Closing out the field. Oh, go ahead, Zach.
Nope, that's fine. Rounding out the field, Kyle Hanshaw, car 46, will start 37th. Of course, you heard from Michael Goodman wishing the happy birthday to his mom. He'll start 38th. Hunter Smith, 39th in car 54. Carlos Acosta starting 40th. Your final row of the grid, Dustin the Dragon Doer in car 32, and Raymond Hanneman in car 85.
Already a slight blinking problem for Josh Robin. He'll get an EOL and start this race from the back of the field. Ethan Burrell will lead us down to the green flag. Field's not even quite caught up yet, but the pace car is going to jump off, and this field is going to go racing here at Pocono. Green flag is up, and Ethan Burrell gets on the gas pedal. He'll get a push from Corey Abbott, and the 37 car will barrel off towards turn 1.
You're going to watch these cars fan out 3, maybe 4, maybe even 5 wide on some of these later restarts going down into turn number 1, one of the widest tracks on the circuit. But right now up front, it's Ethan Burrell, Chad Frankenfield, 2 by 2 as they come off turn number 1.
The big move was the Lake Norman Motorsports Chevys of Tyler Fody and Justin Wadsworth into turn 1. Really, that just slowed up that bottom lane because now Tate Lytle, Matthew Weeks are clear, and we've got a spinner in the back. Caution's out. Take a look and see who that is. I didn't quite catch who spun down the back straightaway.
I saw some smoke there that just appeared and disappeared very quickly. I'm a little
I don't know who
unsure on this one, David. Well,
That's
there we
mine.
have. That is, yes.
Vandermarl. Vandermarl was blinked out. pretty much for the entirety of the back straightaway there. And apparently at some point that car got spun around. It reappeared. Obviously, Van der Marel and that entire Fueled Up Racing team encountering a bunch of connection woes in our Daytona 500, and unfortunately the Gremlins strike again. Van der Marel will wind up in the back, potentially with some damage, and hopefully no other cars are damaged over here. I'm trying to look around where he was qualified in. Looks like everybody's okay in terms of fenders on these cars.
Definitely a very odd situation, especially since we're seeing, as you mentioned, it seems like a couple more connection issues than we normally do in these races. And it appears, and there you see the tally to Justin Van der Marel. Certainly he fell to that at some point during that first lap. But of course, we can't show you a replay of it because if he was disconnecting from the session, very hard to show a race car you can't see. And that's also not a fun situation for those drivers on track because they also could not see him while they were 2-3 wide on this start of the race. We'll see. We've got the Revelos replay machine here. It looks like the focus is
It's on Van der Marel.
It's on Van der Marel. Okay.
He pulls up to the top and just poof. There he goes. He's gone.
That's when nobody else can see him.
Yep. Also noting the Josh Robin after the EOL penalty due to the blinking, he has disconnected and reconnected from the server. So Robin's going to run into being a lap or two down. The other housekeeping note is that Chad Frankenfield was out in front of Ethan Burrell, so Chad Frankenfield led the first 3 laps of this race since we did not get back to the line for one of those laps. And we do have some pitters. We got Johnny Thomas, Dustin Dewar, Brent Jones, and those guys obviously trying to jump in, get off cycle. Jesse Racimus in here, Jake Scarborough as well, Christopher and Carlos Acosta.
So I do wonder. I was talking a little bit before the race with some guys, and I found it a little interesting. It seems like the fuel window might be a little shorter this season than it was the last time the Elite Cup Series race here, because I watched that race back and saw really pretty much all of the leaders had pitted by lap 40 in that race. So I figured, they'll make 40 laps easy. And that's not the vibe I got talking to guys going into tonight as we're looking at the race format here. No stages, 5 sets of tires, 80 laps, 200 miles. So maybe that's a situation where topping off here makes the one stop from here to the end a little more viable if we go green. We'll see. I have a hunch we might not do that regardless.
I remember we saw Johnny Thomas play the strategy last week and end up with a pretty solid finish. I think he finished just outside the top 10, so but ran inside the top 5 at different points in the race. It's certainly a good move for those guys that have already started without the track position due to poor qualifying, and we'll keep an eye on him, especially Johnny, who usually has some really good speed once he gets this next-gen car wound up in a long green flag run. I do hope we have those tonight, but maybe the Van der Marel incident was once in a while, as the guys will double up here and we'll get 1 to green.
And one more thing with the Van der Marel incident that's probably the most unfortunate part for him. While we couldn't see him, a lot of times in those cases, and I've had this happen to me specifically in this series at North Wilkesboro, even if sometimes they can't see you, but you can still see everybody else. So there's a very good chance he literally just got ran over on his screen by a car that never saw him, and that's how he ended up spinning. He probably got on his screen just unceremoniously dumped to the inside of the racetrack. Probably got maybe even a fair amount of damage that from contact we never saw.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. All of the guys we mentioned, Johnny, Racimus, Hunter Smith, Jake Scarborough, Brent Jones, Michael Goodman, Dusty Dewar, they have all come back down pit road and topped off. So I do think that that group may just be able to make it on one more stop.
Like I say, I do think that's certainly part of the strategy. I think what makes it interesting also is the shifting here, right? You could probably stretch it a little bit further if you shifted less, but you're gonna give up a lot of speed doing that. But I think that pitting under this caution does open up the playbook a little bit.
I think it does, and obviously we'll keep our eye on about 8 or so cars that are going to be starting 33rd on back, but with a full tank of fuel versus these cars that have that half a lap under green and then the 3 laps under caution around this 2.5 mile triangular speedway. Chad Frankenfield will lead us down to the green. He'll be flanked by Ethan Burrell, Tate Lytle, and Matthew Weeks in the row behind. Then it's Corey Abbott and Tyler Fode in row 3 on this restart. Frankenfield with an early jump in the restart zone. He gets a fairly sizable gap on his 3 Pro Edge Toyota competitors behind. Then there's another small gap back to Tyler Fode, who I think will beat Corey Abbott to the line. And let's see how much they fan out. They are 3 wide in the mid-pack. They're 3 wide at the back.
So far, all good, though. You see them 3-4 wide as they make their way through turn 1. Now they'll head down to Long Pond straightaway towards the tunnel turn.
5 wide? That's 5 wide right there.
They are.
Ryan Gable, Andrew Rucker.
Oh, and Andrew Rucker, excuse me, trying to squeeze in front of Ryan Gable.
Scholden and Orgard entering the tunnel turn. Everybody's all right. The restarts are where you can make up the most ground, and all of these guys know that. The only time you're going to be able to make passes, according to what we know about this car, is this early restart and then late in a green flag run. So these guys are giving it everything they've got. Jonathan Cutlip up on the outside, kind of rim riding that top groove around that flat turn 3. That 5 car in the back, he's the one to watch as he starts to surge forward from 35th starting spot. Already up to 26th, though Cutlip's gained 9 positions in just about a lap of green flag racing.
Now you're watching on. We look a little further back into field, look at a Leighton Norgard. Justin Fortner battling for position there. Still see Justin Vandermarl having some connection issues at the back of the field. We look a little further ahead now. I believe that's Jess Story. No, excuse me. That's Gavin Hibbs to the inside of Scott Crump. My mistake. Battling for the 6th position.
Yep. Gavin Hibbs, Scott Crump, 2 guys running really quite well early in this one. Hibbs slides up the track, almost gets the left rear of Scott Crump's number 90. That will open the door for Crump's teammate Justin Wadsworth, and now Nick Massey takes him 3 wide.
And that's just how easily it can happen here at Pocono, especially that 3rd turn. If you stall out just a little bit, then you have this huge straightaway where somebody can get a run on you. Nick Massey taking advantage of that, and he'll gain some ground here, get up to the 8th position. Well, now he stalls out a little bit on corner exit there. He got pinned down on the bottom of turn 1, and that kind of took away some of that momentum.
It sure did, and now we see Wadsworth clear into 7th spot. Wadsworth's Lake Norman debut been just a touch disappointing. I think not out of his own doing, really. He got caught up in that big wreck last week, wound up with a decent finish at Texas, but certainly not quite the result he would have hoped for. And then he and Tyler Fode made some contact in that Daytona 500, sent the 40 car sideways, and then I think Wadsworth wound up speeding on pit road at one point, ended up finishing that race a lap down. So I look for the 6 to have some bounce back races here going forward, because that's a good partnership over there, and they've got 3 guys following in the tire tracks of those 3 Pro Edge Toyotas trying to hunt down Chad Frankenfield at the front.
Yeah, Justin Wadsworth, the results have not reflected the pace he has had thus far in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series season. That's not a trend I think that will last. He's got to start putting together some good finishes because he's running well enough to be in that conversation. And we see him right now in the 7th position following Scott Crump.
Right, and when you're working with guys like Tyler Fode and Scott Crump, and you're able to kind of feed off of the assistance those guys are providing, you're certainly going to get the types of results, maybe not exactly the results those guys get week in, week out, but we see what the results have done for guys like Ethan Stanley, who I don't know that we called Ethan Stanley's name. Well, he's 13th right now, but he won last week. And you also look at where's the other one? Oh, Ryan Gable is the other one, and Ryan Gable's results have really reflected well since he's been over at Lake Norman. That whole team is typically a very strong team that's bouncing off each other and growing week in and week out. And right now, I mean, it seems like they're about a half step behind that trio running 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. But I would very much take them to improve as the season goes along and as they get used to having Justin Wadsworth in their stable.
Right now you see Ryan Gable following Nick Indelicato. They are running 16.
Norgard sideways.
Norgard sideways in turn 3. He clipped the grass a little bit trying to save that car. Keeps it pointed the right direction, but that's just going to take away all his straightaway speed. Here you see him just getting swallowed up. There goes Jordan Owens. There goes Jonathan Cutlip on his charge through the field. Not sure if that's all the damage for a Leighton Norgard.
And Seth Rawls will try to follow Jonathan Cutlip by on the outside in that very powerful draft with this next-gen car. And as Chad Frankenfield leads, Gavin Hibbs jumps to the inside of Justin Wadsworth. Wadsworth will try to defend on the outside lane, takes some notes from his Lake Norman teammates who love to defend off of that high lane, and he will do so successfully through the tunnel turn.
It's definitely seems to be the preferred method at this track with this car so far tonight. Get somebody pinned down on the bottom, get that run off the corner. Certainly we'll see if that changes over the course of a run, but right now that seems to be the way to go.
It does. And as we look kind of back through the mid part of this field, obviously off to a really good start this season given his performance in the Daytona 500, and then another solid week last week at Texas was Ty McIntosh. I think Ty's result last week didn't quite speak for how well he ran in terms of pace, as he was up in the top 10 at times. The number 35 car was a contender for that Daytona 500, and another draft-style track for Ty McIntosh, and we'll see if he can put together a decent result tonight. He's currently running 11th and having a good run.
You know, another guy having a decent little start to this race. Just behind that, you see the Zachary Rogers machine, car number 1 with that Robbie Horton look, and now he's got to go ahead and pick up another spot as he's got a huge push from Ethan Stanley, and they're going to work their way up to, well, now with that so much of a push, they're going to be 3 wide here. Ethan Stanley able to work underneath Zach Rogers, and now they're going to be side by side going down Long Pond, heading towards turn 2.
And you can see that the racing has given a huge gap back to up to Corey Abbott there in the 21 car in 10th spot. This battle for 11th has kind of slowed down this group pretty dramatically. Trey Holmes is there. Now here comes Indelicato, Schold, and Gavel. And the outside lane is the one that they're trying to surge forward here, but Ethan Stanley's got that preferred inside line on the flat turn 3. He runs Zach Rogers up the racetrack just a little bit. Ty looking 3 wide on the bottom.
And this is where all that racetrack gets so inviting, but then it's so hard to make these cars fit 3 wide on the exit of turn 1. Never mind trying to get them 3 wide into turn 2. McIntosh thinks better of it for now.
Gave Ethan Stanley a big push there going into turn 1. That will clear the number 91 defending race winner at Texas. And now Stanley drops down. He's trying to pick up Ty McIntosh. He knew that there was Gavin Hibbs just had an issue going into the tunnel turn. He's on the apron in the tunnel turn right now. The 95 car, Gavin Hibbs.
Yeah,
still
he is
slow.
Well off the pace. Not sure. Oh, he is. He appears to have had a mechanical issue of some description.
Yeah, that car is not speeding back up. You think he money shifted it or shifted the wrong way? And
that is what I'm hearing in the voice chat. He is cursing the shifter.
He is back up to speed now, but yeah, it looks like down the back straightaway trying to go up into 5th gear before the tunnel turn. He wound it the wrong direction, potentially, and wound up losing, I think, just about every spot he could have. He's now battling Michael Goodman back in 37th place.
Yeah, I'm going to try to go back on my end here and see if I can deduce what happened from on board the car, but definitely a costly, whether it was a mistake or an issue, whatever the case may be for Gavin Hibbs there. He was running so well near the front of the field, and now he's got a long ways to go.
Yeah, track position, everything, as we heard Michael Goodman mention before the race started. Meanwhile, the lead is tightening up, and now there's a little bit of a draft, but for team cars right behind Chad Frankenfield. And I do wonder if these two Pro Edge cars will ride in behind that 15 and maybe save a little bit of fuel and let him kind of carry around the banner with the higher gears and whatnot, and just try to get on that same strategy that Johnny Thomas and those guys are at in the back of the field.
Listening to the onboard, obviously I can't look at the digital readouts per se for the gear indicator because that will sometimes lie to you in these circumstances, but it definitely sounds like from the onboard of Gavin Hibbs, from my perspective, he may have double-clicked the shifter.
And gone from fifth to third.
Yes.
Oof. And that may... Luckily for Gavin, that did not spell the end of his night, as that certainly could have. Looks like we had
very easily.
Yeah, looks like we had an incident for Dustin Dewar, who just looks like he just disappeared. Dustin Dewar disconnect, and call it a mechanical gremlin. The 32. He might be back. He is back. He was disconnected for about a lap. Was Dustin Dewar. So luckily, it seems like there's just been a lot of connection issues in this 2024 B season. A lot of guys are really struggling with keeping the car on the racetrack and connected to that internet.
And that's sometimes part and parcel of some of the updates we get with the iRacing system. I have to be honest as well. Some of these updates, they bring in some nice, pretty bells and whistles, some updated graphics. It's now we're going, oh, that was a big moment there. And this is not over yet. Jordan, oh boy, almost, there might have been contact there between Fortner and Owens.
I think there definitely was contact between Fortner and Owens. There was also contact between Fortner and Rucker, and Justin Fortner is the victim in all this. He falls back at least 5 positions here after the contact with Andrew Rucker and then the subsequent contact with Jordan Owens in that 16 car. And Owens is coming off a 5th place finish last week at Texas. He's driving with some confidence, but there down the straightaway, I think he tried to take a little air off that 26 car, keep him moving backwards, and in so doing clipped the 26 car a little bit. And it looks like both cars are fine, but certainly a scary moment there on the front straightaway.
Indeed, almost a little too reminiscent of that incident we saw Monday in the real world at Michigan with Noah Gregson and Corey LaJoie getting so close together before LaJoie obviously spun and flew through the air. I don't think we'll see anything like that tonight.
There's 3-wide battle for the lead. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we'll be seeing any blowovers in this one, but Ethan Burrell and Matthew Weeks have taken the lead away from Chad Frankenfield, so Frankenfield leads the first 17 laps. Pole sitter Ethan Burrell will pick up a lap lead and extend his points lead via one more lap lead, and let's see how he did it here.
Well, here it looks like Matthew Weeks probably drove it in there pretty hard to get underneath Chad. He tried the crossover, but Ethan Burrell was sitting pretty while they were fighting, able to get the big run. We have a caution.
Worth noting that Matthew Weeks had bypassed his teammate Ethan Burrell right after that, so Weeks is your race leader. He will pick up a lap lead, and it is Andrew Rucker who has crashed.
We'll have to see what happened to Andrew Rucker here on the Mark Revelos replay machine.
Old Sonny D.
He's a little loose here. I can already see the angle of the car. He's got it a little on the ragged edge here, and it's got to wash up the hill.
There is some significant contact for that car behind him. So this car is going to fishtail, and then it's going to slap into the outside wall here.
He's got locked up here, but it's already pointed up the track. Jonathan Cutlip is going to... He had been doing such a great job trying to drive his way through the field after that poor qualifying effort, and now he's got certainly some front-end damage from that. Does everybody else get by him?
I do believe they do. I don't think that there's any further contact, but Rucker will get the tally per race control. That is a tough break for Andrew Rucker. It's also a tough break for the guys who pitted on lap 3 and 4 there, looking for a green flag run to the end of this race. They will not get it, and now everybody in the field is going to be stopping this one to the end.
Yeah, that kind of takes away that one strategy element we were discussing after the last caution. You know everybody's going to pit here. You know they're going to be able to go the rest of the way from here if it does go green. What it does open up is, okay, when do you take that pit stop if we do go green? But right now, I'll focus on this pit stop.
Everybody in the field coming down, except for one, and I'm guessing that's Jesse Racimus. He stayed out just about every race to lead a lap, and it will be Jesse Racimus. So Racimus is playing that Ken Schrader style points game to go out here and lead a lap each and every race if he can, and I admire the strategy. It's certainly worked out for him so far. He's 6th in points.
Watching the battle on pit road from the Whiplash sim cam, we'll see who gets off of pit road first. Looks like Matthew Weeks. Matthew Weeks.
Weeks retains the lead. Then it will be Frankenfield, Burrell, Lytle off pit road. Ethan Stanley jumped up the running order. Either a quick pit stop for that 91 car. I think it had to just have been a good pit stop, a good pit exit for Ethan Stanley. Or he took 2 tires and some of these other guys took 4.
He definitely took 4 tires. I can't remember.
So, yeah, just a really good pit stop for Ethan Stanley. Jumped him up 5 positions.
Well, we've got a chance. Might be a good opportunity to pay some bills before we go back green.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Pocono for the Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series. We are going through the tunnel turn here, looking to restart on lap 21 of 80 with Matthew Weeks out in front of Chad Frankenfield, Ethan Burrell, and Tate Lytle. 3rd and 4th, Ethan Stanley and Tyler Fody running 5th and 6th. Justin Wadsworth and Nick Massey will restart 7th and 8th. Scott Crump, Zach Rogers will start 9th and 10th here on this restart, and you'll see these guys fan out 3, 4, 5 wide going into turn 1. Let's see if they can make it through without wrecking.
Yeah, that's the concern, right? We talked about how important it is to pick up positions on these restarts. You know guys are going to be eager, fanning out, but cautions can breed cautions. We'll see if we can get through these first couple of laps here on this restart.
Base car is off. Matthew Weeks leads him to the restart zone. He, Ethan Burrell, and Tate Lytle all go in sync with that teamwork via the Discord chat. Weeks has the advantage going towards turn 1, and you see the first car fanning out. That is Nick and Delicato in the 10.
Matthew Weeks will lead the way into turn 1. Further back, you see the 2 wide, the 3 wide racing.
Oh, big wreck!
There's the car round.
Might not be so big, but I do think that was our pre-race reporter Michael Goodman spun out there in the 44 car. And he might be the only one damaged in this incident. I think he got clipped Maybe somebody entered turn 1 a little too hot. Let's see what happened here.
So I believe Goodman is.
Oh, he's
Yep,
going to
he's
get into
going to be
Brandon
right.
Ultra.
Yep. I can't
And
tell if he got into him or if he locked up trying to stay off of him. Of course, there's Jonathan Cutlip again.
Jonathan Cutlip has been a magnet for the incidents so far in this race, and Goody slides. We might have to go on board with Andrew Rucker and see what he saw, because that was a heart attack coming down the track in front of him there. And Goody's mom is okay. I don't think there's too much damage to the front nose of the 44 car here.
Peekaboo.
Whew. Goody will get the tally, unfortunately, but deservedly.
And look, that move by Rucker to go left from the banking to the apron on cold tires in this car, not as easy as it looked. It would have been very, very easy for him to lose control of his own car in that moment. But good driving there to miss the wreck and keep his car pointed in the right direction.
Sure was, and Rucker obviously already involved in one incident. Jonathan doesn't make it like Jonathan Cutlip and get involved in that second one. Rucker already on pit road trying to fix further damage to that 64 car from that first one incident, I believe. And while we are under our third caution of the race, let's have Dave Huckleberry read us some of our sponsor reads.
All right, gentlemen. Well, we are the Belly Up Sports Cup Series, the internet sports bar, sports commentary via podcast, forums, and articles on topics ranging to nearly every sport. Not your usual sports site. Check them out on X or at bellyupsports.com. Our premier sponsors, Blue Egg Marketing. Rev up your business with Blue Egg, your marketing pit crew. Turbocharge your lead generation with experienced drivers that can navigate the competitive track to connecting your customers. With Blue Egg, you're always in the pole position, leading your brand toward victory lane. Don't spin your wheels, accelerate success with Blue Egg, fueling small businesses to win big. Worldwide Technology Raceway is a motorsport racing facility in Madison, Illinois, just east of St. Louis, Missouri. Features a 1.25-mile oval that hosts the NASCAR Cup Series, the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and just last weekend, the NTT IndyCar Series. They have a 2-mile infield road course used by Speed Tour Trans Am, SCCA, and the Porsche Club of America, and a quarter-mile NHRA sanctioned drag strip that hosts the annual NHRA Camping World Series, and the Kartplex, a state-of-the-art karting facility. 4D Racewear has joined us this year as a premier sponsor, makers of the ultimate sim racing shoes and custom apparel designed for sim racing by sim racers. 4D sim racing shoes are custom engineered to connect racers to the pedals in a way that no other racing shoe can and still provide all the comfort needed for those double and triple stints. Visit 4dracewear.com and check out the original racing gloves for your feet. And our race sponsor tonight is at IndyCar1909.com. For past, present, and future, IndyCar1909.com. That's it, guys.
Well, just as we had thrown to Dave for those ad reads, it's worth noting you don't see Ethan Stanley among these leaders. We've been talking about those AirNet issues tonight. They got him, and he was up in the top 5. He's been able to rejoin the lobby, but obviously he is not going to be on the lead lap anymore, and certainly lost that position near the front of the field.
Yeah, unfortunately for Ethan Stanley, he is locked in to the playoffs points. Not too much a concern, just the disappointment that he will not contend for the race win today, I believe. But Ethan Stanley, I think, is certainly capable of getting back into this race. He is showing only one lap down. I think he will be very much a factor if we get enough cautions to get that car back on the lead lap. But it might take a Herculean effort for Ethan Stanley to get after the race win here in this one as he comes off pit road right now.
If there is one thing to make things easier for him as you see him rejoining the track, obviously the caution laps here take close to 2 minutes. That's why he only lost 1 lap. And it also means because of how long this track is, there aren't I believe it's just him and Andrew Rucker right now, one lap down. So it'll be just those two guys racing for the lucky dog at the next caution. Even if it doesn't work out, you're 2 cautions away from being back on the lead lap.
Yep, he's close, right? And so these damages could be mitigated, I think, via this racetrack. But we'll go back green here as Matthew Weeks continues to lead the field. He and teammate Ethan Burrell will line up on that front row. Tate Lytle will be pushing his teammate there, Matthew Weeks, at the front. And green flag is back out. Lytle and Weeks go and get a very big jump on that outside lane. They're going to try to clear Ethan Burrell down towards turn 1. They might even let Ethan get up into that outside lane in third spot.
Indeed, you'll once again watch these cars go through turn 1. Matthew Weeks leading the way. Doesn't look like anybody's out of shape through turn 1 this time, but again, you're going to see 2 and 3 wide racing as they work their way towards turn number 2.
Chad Frankenfield to the outside of Ethan Burrell. That is the battle for third. Justin Wadsworth clears in front of his teammate Tyler Fode for fifth. Wadsworth's going after Frankenfield for fourth.
Look at Wadsworth go to the inside of Chad Frankenfield. He's got Tyler Fode behind him. They're going to have the inside line going into turn 3. Scott Crump looks like he's got to try to follow them, but Nick Massey might try to stick his nose into things.
Yep, Nick Massey trying to get underneath Scott Crump as Ryan Schold gets a little bit loose on corner exit underneath Corey Abbott. That's a battle for ninth. Zach Rogers enters that fray. He'll try to push Abbott by Schold. Ryan Gable now working towards the top 10 in the number 01 Hucks machine. He'll try to join up with his Lake Norman teammates up there running 5th, 6th, and 7th.
There you see Ryan Schold, Zach Rogers side by side. That's a battle for the last spot in the top 10. It looks like Rogers able to hang on to that spot, and he'll set sights on Corey Abbott. But up the hill a little bit in turn 2. It doesn't cost him, but a little bit of a wild ride there for Zach Rogers.
Ryan Schold gave Zach Rogers a big bump draft there through the short chute and into turn 3. Rogers has a good run, but I don't think he's going to be able to take it anywhere. Corey Abbott able to hold strong there for that 9th position, and he'll be chasing after the 48 of Nick Massey up front. Tate Lytle not content with running behind his teammates anymore. Tate Lytle wants to lead this race in the 56 car.
There you see Tate Lytle drive it into turn number 1. Couldn't quite get the run out of the bottom of the hill, but he is going to get enough to get around Matthew Weeks. Now, will Matthew Weeks respond? Right now it seems like he is content to ride behind Tate Lytle at least till they get through turn number 2. We'll see if he has anything up his sleeve for the final corner of the circuit.
My wager is that they have definitely expected this. They wanted to make sure Tate Lytle got up front, got that lap led for that additional bonus point. And these 3 drivers are expecting to be 3 of those final 4 at the end of the season. They're already thinking about points, thinking about making sure that this group can finish on the podium, and look at how they're drafting. Chad Frankenfield loose off turn 3. Here comes Wadsworth. He'll clear by Frankenfield for that 4th position. So move Justin Wadsworth up 2 spots in the last couple of laps. He has worked into that 4th spot, and he's going to try to make a charge after these 3 race leaders.
Justin Wadsworth on the move. He's moved around Chad Frankenfield, who now will be under pressure from Tyler Fode in that 40 machine. Meanwhile, up front, those top 3 trying to break away, but we'll see if Justin Wadsworth can close in on Ethan Burrell and the rest of those top 3 drivers.
Now, Chad Frankenfield has stayed on the back bumper of that Justin Wadsworth machine, so Frankenfield got loose there on the front straightaway, gave up that spot to Wadsworth, but it doesn't look like that's affected Chad's car any. He's still pretty quick, and he's able to keep it on the rear bumper of the 6 car, and they are catching ever so slightly the back bumper of Ethan Burrell.
Off into turn number 1, Tate Lytle still leading the way. Matthew Weeks in 2nd, Ethan Burrell in 3rd. You see that gap starting to close between 3rd and 4th. Justin Wadsworth in the 6 car, reeling in the 37 of Ethan Burrell. Of course, Chad Frankenfield, Tyler Fode, Scott Crump all in a line, working together to close in on that gap. Ultimately, it's a little bit of co-opetition, as Darrell Waltrip would say. They're got to work together to get back to the leaders, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Chad Frankenfield, not a member of Lake Norman. Definitely no love lost between Chad and any of the group that surrounds him right now. But I think if Chad were to stay in line, I think that would be more beneficial to himself and this 6 car and the 2 cars around him, the 40 behind as well, and Tyler Fode. Chad needs to wait until he can get Wadsworth to race with Ethan Burrell and potentially slow up that 37 car, because if those two started going side by side right now, I think you'd see these 3 Pro Edge Toyotas leave him in the dust.
And of course, the tricky part here as well is, and you saw Chad Frankenfield run a little bit different line in turn 1 that time around. If you stay right tucked underneath somebody in these corners,
Chad in the wall!
Chad Frankenfield getting a piece of the wall, and that actually, kind of to my point, if you stay in that dirty air, it makes the car a little bit tighter, which you saw what happened with Chad Frankenfield. He got tight, hit the wall. Tyler Fode is now by him. But even if you don't hit the wall, that's the worst case scenario, right? But even if you're staying out of the wall, that's really hard on those front tires over the course of a long run. You want to be able to move around just a little bit to get that clean air on the nose in the corners and try to keep some of the life in those front tires.
Yeah, it's a worthy cause, but ultimately, you want to be in line on those straightaways too. And if you're trying to run a different line, you can wind up, costing yourself those runs on the straightaway. And we see it here with Chad Frankenfield. And it's worth noting, as you saw that gear shift from 5th to 4th, these guys are shifting on that back Long Pond straightaway, and they are shifting on that very front straightaway as well. So it's that 4 total shifts in each of these laps. That's quite a bit of stuff going on top of having to race your competitors. These guys are paying attention to the shifting, and they're paying attention to the draft here as Chad Frankenfield tries to go underneath Tyler Fode on the front straightaway as he shifts into 5th gear.
Right back on the attack. Chad Frankenfield going right back for that 5th position. He'll be to the inside of Tyler Fode. Can he clear him out of turn 1, though? He can't really move forward because the 6 car of Justin Wadsworth is there.
Fode got a little bit loose on the top. Otherwise, I think the run from that top side might have even been a little bit stronger. As it stands, Tate Lytle remains the race leader. His teammates Matthew Weeks and Ethan Burrell right behind. Then it's the 2 Lake Norman Chevys of Justin Wadsworth and Tyler Fode. They have completed passes on Chad Frankenfield. And then it's Scott Crump, Nick Massey, Corey Abbott, and Zach Rogers rounding out the top 10. It's kind of been that way for a while. This single file style racing has kind of opened it up to where these guys are a little bit stuck right now.
Saw Ethan Burrell play with that outside line in turn 3, and it gave him a huge run here down the front stretch. He's got to challenge Matthew Weeks for the 2nd spot here as we go into turn number 1. Is he got to be able to get woed down enough to stay on the bottom? Not quite. Has to give up a little bit there. He'll slot in back behind Matthew Weeks.
If I'm Ethan Burrell, though, I'm jotting that one down. He got a big run, I think, down that front straightaway, maybe with like 1 or 2 to go. You could potentially make that work and try out that outside lane, especially from 3rd spot. As Scott Crump almost gets the outside wall, Nick Massey does not take the opportunity to jump inside. Crump giving up just a little bit of ground to Chad Frankenfield right here, and Chad is continuing to battle with those Lake Norman Chevrolets instead of working with them to pull away from the 90 car behind, and that's just going to bring the 90 car right back to the back bumper of Chad Frankenfield.
Hey, another thing with that, talking about taking notes there and that run Ethan Burrell was able to generate. Let's be honest about it. He got down into turn 1, couldn't make it stick, backed out of it, gladly settled behind his teammate, and just stayed running 3rd. Mm-hmm. If it's down to 1 or 2 to go, and you have that run, you're probably got to be a little less bashful about running a guy up the hill in turn number 1 there.
I believe we saw, and not from the specific move that we were discussing in turn 3 with that outside lane that Ethan Burrell is now going after once again, but we saw Denny Hamlin, I believe, make that move a few years ago to win a race here at Pocono.
Hey, it could happen.
Might have been Kyle Larson. I'm trying. I think Denny put Ross Chastain in the wall via that type of deep dive into turn 1.
I would never encourage that kind of behavior, but
But we are acknowledging that behavior is possible. And if we wrap this thing down and these guys are as on top of each other as they are, there's been a lot of patience displayed to this point. 36 laps, we're approaching lap 40. I think we're going to give out a playoff point there at halfway for the race leader, and that would be one of these Pro Edge Toyotas, I believe. And they might be thinking about battling for that playoff point, but here comes Ethan Burrell up to the top of the racetrack once again. Once we get closer to the end of this race, though, I think there will be a lot less patience, a lot less give and take, and a lot more potential to wad somebody up there on the exit of turn 1.
And as we get closer to halfway, we'll also have to start keeping an eye on. I don't think we're there yet. We're definitely not there yet, but we are closing in on when the conversations will start, at least in these team chats, about when are we going to plan on pitting. So we restarted what? Lap 25?
5, yeah.
25. So if you're splitting it in half, which would be kind of I don't know, it's the winning move, but it's got to be the boring move. You split it in half, that's, you're...
Oh, Chad in the wall again.
Yeah, Chad is really having trouble keeping the car out of the fence exiting turn 2. And there's only so many times you can go to that well. I know these cars are pretty tanky in iRacing, but Pocono a pretty sensitive track as well. Not to mention, it would indicate that car is getting tighter and tighter, and he's using up a lot of the good in the right front of that number 15.
I think there's a little bit of visual damage now on the right front of Chad Frankenfield's car. So Chad encountering that dirty air from the back bumper wake of the 40 of Tyler Fode. Fode trying to work with Justin Wadsworth and give him the big push to get himself and Wadsworth up into the conversation with these 3 Pro Edge Toyotas. For now, though, it's really just tightened up the 6 car in the center of the corner. He's going just a little bit too fast on the corner entry, and I think it's slowing him up just a teensy bit. As here comes Matthew Weeks. Looks to the inside of Tate Lytle. He wants that stage point. He knows how important it is. Obviously, we don't throw any caution flags or anything. Ethan Burrell wraps the top. Matthew Weeks clears his teammate Tate Lytle for the race lead, but Lytle getting a big push to Matthew Weeks here at lap 39. If we do give out that playoff point here at lap 40, just 2 laps from now, here comes Tate Lytle back to the inside of Matthew Weeks.
The gloves coming off a little bit for that playoff point. Right now, Tate Lytle has the advantage, but will Matthew Weeks be able to get the run out of turn number 1? He's got to try it to the inside of the 56 car. He's going to have the inside line as they head towards turn number 2, and you see a little bit of gamesmanship there. Matthew Weeks trying to take away that side draft from Tate Lytle.
Yep, Matthew Weeks trying to take away the side draft and keep the air around that 11 car clean so that Lytle doesn't drive it off the wall and get after him. But Lytle able to hold off Matthew Weeks, and now Ethan Burrell might be within striking distance using that move on the outside.
And there you see he's got to get the run out of turn 3. Doesn't seem to be as strong as it has been the last couple
Here
of
he
times,
comes.
but he might be able to get there in time.
Oh, crashing in the back, big!
Somebody has gone into the barrels there, it looked like. I believe that was Andrew Rucker we just saw in the front stretch.
Hunter Smith is also into the inside wall a ton. And that will end the battle for the stage point, and it would award it to Tate Lytle. I believe Hunter Smith's going to bounce off the outside wall and come across Andrew Rucker's nose here. He's going to lose it before even that. Oh, there it is. Snapped it back on him. And then crossed the nose of the Sunny D machine. Nowhere to go.
I thought they had gone into the barrels there at pit entry. No, it was further down, but definitely some hard shots into the pit wall. Hunter Smith receiving the tally.
Thought they hit even harder than they did, but Rucker's car is fairly well broken. He bounced it off the fence under caution here.
Yeah, both of those cars have meatballs, and I'm pretty sure we're going to take another look at the replay here, but I think we saw some of that engine smoke from the 64. Maybe not. That might have just been lockup trying to get stopped, but you can see the right front tire was not as cooperative as it should be.
No. What this caution does do is put Ethan Stanley back on the lead lap in the 91 car.
It does do that, and I was wondering if we'd see a little bit more. If anybody was got to come as soon as the fuel window opened, I figured Ethan Stanley would be one of those guys that ran it long, hoping to catch a caution. He's going to catch one in the different way this time. He's just going to get the lucky dog, get back on the lead lap, and I think considering Rucker was in that incident, that might
Ended his night.
it probably ended. He has disconnected, so I think all the cars on track might be on the lead lap after Stanley receives that free pass.
That would be correct. Jonathan Cutlip did retire the number 5 car. He will finish 41st tonight. Another disappointing run by a guy who's been in the Final Four, and you'd expect to be a favorite for some of these races, but Cutlip just has, between the internet woes and other issues, Jonathan Cutlip just has not had a good start to the season.
Here we see the field come down pit road. Somebody's staying out.
Is that Jesse Racine? Oh, it's Ethan Stanley.
Well, there you go. Of course, because he needs to stay
He
out,
needs
or
to
he
stay
will
out.
not receive the free pass. He is following direction. Everybody else, however, is on pit road.
Now, I expect about half the field, maybe more, to top it off and try to go to the end from here. I don't know if the race leaders can go to the end from here. We talked about them trying to split the race in half and go 42 to 80. We weren't sure they could do that. This would be 38. Ethan Burrell's got a very long stop. What happened there?
I'm not sure.
Did the other guys take 2, or did Ethan slide through his box?
We'll have to take a look at that.
I'm gonna check. Let's see. They stop. Oh yeah, Ethan slid through his box. Just for the slightest second, but you can see that was enough to drop Ethan Burrell down, well down in the running order.
Take a look at the 15 car.
Yeah, also Chad Frankenfield.
He is letting a lot of cars by, which usually indicates he got busted.
Chad Frankenfield speeding on pit road. That was one of our early race leaders, qualified second in this one, and he will lose a lot of that track position. And if I'm Chad now, I come down pit road again, I top off my fuel, I say, all right, well, let's try to make it to the end from here.
Positive, exactly.
Yep.
Try to get rid of any fuel drama.
And there might not be any, right? These guys up front might be able to make it all the way, but we aren't sure how long they can go, and we haven't obviously run a full green flag run to where they would stretch that fuel out. And if there's a bunch of guys coming down to top off right here, I think your answer is pretty clear that these guys are not guaranteed to make it on fuel from this point.
So yeah, looking at the replay on my end, Chad Frankenfield was very motivated, shall we say, to beat Tyler Fody off pit road, which is fine, except he was going 60 at pit exit.
Yeah, that'll do it. 55, I believe, the speed limit.
55
pit
is the
road.
limit. Usually you can get away with, maybe 56 for a little bit. 60, they're gonna get you for that pretty much every time.
You can get away with 60 in that last zone if you were not, in the zone going 55 the whole rest of the way. But I think Chad had an entire zone there where he was 55, and then obviously if he goes up to 60, that'll ding you. So the race off pit road was won by Tate Lytle. I'm looking back to see if we had any takers down pit road for top offs, and I'm not seeing anybody. Carlos Acosta comes to top it off. So these guys might think they're good on fuel here. And maybe 40 was the limit, and you could go 39, 38, and we're going to be restarting with 37 laps to go. So maybe these guys are about a lap to the good.
I'm thinking we should be good as long as we're finishing under regulation. I'll be very interested if we get into an overtime situation, what that would look like. But then again, if we're going that long and then we get the caution with 1 or 2 to go, everybody's probably pitting for tires anyway.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We have lost Brandon Ultra, retired in that 45 car. He will finish well back in the field. Pace car is off. Tate Lytle, Matthew Weeks, teammates up at the front, but now the Lake Norman Motorsports Chevys are right on the back bumpers of Lytle and Weeks does not get going. It's Justin Wadsworth who jumps to the outside after the start-finish line. He'll be looking for the race lead here going into turn one.
Justin Wadsworth has been hanging out near the front all night. Now he's in second, and he has sights on the leader. Behind him, you see 2 wide, 3 wide racing.
4 wide a little bit.
Yeah, that's a Leighton Norgard thinking he's at Eldora right now. I believe that may have been Justin Watts. No, that is Ryan Scholl that got a little out of shape out turn one, but keeps it pointed the right direction in the other Little Eagle Racing car.
Scott Crump way through the outside there in the tunnel turn. Ethan Burrell is going to jump to his inside and try to make up some of that lost track position. See if Justin Wadsworth can make a bid for the lead, try to prevent Pro Edge from leading this entire race. They've led every lap so far. Tyler Fode trying to make some hay on Matthew Weeks, take some pressure off. The Weeks all over the back bumper of Wadsworth. Wadsworth forced to play a little bit of defense here.
And boy, he is playing defense. That's probably not going to be well received, that little move to the outside after already going to the inside on the front stretch. But now,
Open the door.
He opened the door, but he's going to hold them off and probably have the run out of turn one. Is he going to be able to go after Tate Lytle here?
Look at old Ethan Burrell. He jumped to the bottom. He tried to get all these guys. Now Weeks jumps down to try to pick up his teammate. He will not be able to do so. Burrell sits back into 5th spot. Fode holds strong in 4th. Wadsworth going after these Pro Edge Toyotas. Weeks deeks to the outside. He'll try to go after Wadsworth on the top, and looks like that might be the end of the story for the Justin Wadsworth lead experiment, but Wadsworth fighting back on the bottom.
Boy, he has got the elbows out in that 6 car, really making everybody around him work for it. Matthew Weeks, Tyler Fode, you're going to see Ethan Burrell try to get back into the mix here. Justin Wadsworth is not giving up this second position without a fight.
No, he's not, and here comes Burrell, fires it in from way back. He's looking to get in front of Matthew Weeks. I don't think he's going to be able to do it, but what a job by Ethan Burrell. He had way more horsepower through the middle of that corner than anybody else, and man, he's not going to lose any time. That 37 car is driving really hard on the bottom of the racetrack right now. All by himself down there. No draft needed. And Ethan Burrell's working his way back to the front.
Ethan Burrell, Matthew Weeks side by side for the 3rd position. That gives a little bit of breathing room to Wadsworth into 6th. Tyler Fode trying to see which way he needs to go to get around this little gaggle. You could tell
Burrell's going to get to 3rd. What a job by Burrell. Now he jumps to the top. Back to the bottom goes Ethan Burrell. He's going after 2nd.
I don't know how many more moves Justin Wadsworth is going to get on the front stretch. I understand the desire to hold on to that 2nd position, but the left to right to left is going to end at some point with a hard left into the pit wall if he's not careful.
Yeah, but now he's going to give a big bump to Ethan Burrell. Burrell has fired up the engines. He has worked up to the 2nd spot, and now he'll go after Tate Lytle for the race lead.
There you see Ethan Burrell. Can he get the run?
He got it.
That was a huge run from the bottom out of turn number 2. He's able to get out in front of Tate Lytle, but here comes Matthew Weeks. He's got to throw his hat back into the ring.
These three have a level that I don't know if any of the rest of these guys have. Ethan Burrell just cleared through. Got Tyler. Big wreck on the front straightaway. Looked like Gavin Hibbs, maybe Jesse Racimus involved as well. Johnny Thomas involved. Just going to praise Ethan Burrell's ability and down the front straightaway here. We wind up with a wreck, and it's right around the 15 car. Let's see what happened here.
Is there going to be contact between the 15 and the 16, maybe?
You would think so. I don't know.
I don't think so.
No, it looked like it was behind. Norgard into Gavin Hibbs. And Hibbs is going to fishtail, and I think he's going to catch the 70, and that's going to catch the 83. All 3 of those guys are going to end up into the inside wall here down the front straightaway. Tough break for a bunch of guys that are pretty well up in points, though I don't think Hibbs is. Hibbs has had a pretty dismal start to the season. Jesse Racimus is 6th in points. Johnny Thomas was up there. He's had a couple of good races.
The tally
Italy.
going to the 12 of a Leighton Norgard. We'll get another look at it here.
Norgard's sideways. The contact into Hibbs is what starts this up, and Hibbs unable to rein in the 95 Shifty Sports Ford. And that ends up getting Racimus squirrely. Racimus unable to rein in the Do Good Chevy, and he collects Johnny Thomas. 4-car crash on the front straightaway, and I don't believe any of our leaders pitted because they can make it to the end from here on fuel.
Here's what Johnny Thomas saw. Car's getting out of shape. Okay, I'm good.
No.
No, I'm not good.
Not good. Around goes the belly up number 83. I think we'll also watch what happened to Jesse Racimus.
Just a tough break for those guys.
Mm-hmm. And there's some bystanders in the whole event. Now a bunch of cars are coming down pit road. They deked. They deked and faked out.
That was a little bit of NHL 24 action. Some guys
Corey
further back
Abbott
are pitting. Yep.
Yeah, Corey Abbott down pit road. It's an interesting one. Ethan Stanley stayed out. Chad Frankenfield stayed out. They are inside the top 20, both of them now. Christopher, Michael Hosak down pit road.
The Leighton Norgard, Gavin Hibbs also on pit road. I'm sure they'll be getting some damage repaired.
Yeah. Dustin Dewar has taken to pit road. Christopher down pit road once again. Carlos Acosta down pit road once again. Lucky dog to Justin Vandermarl, who was the source of our first caution today.
I shouldn't laugh at that. That's not funny. But poor Justin, he was getting cheered on by his fellow competitors as he was passing the field for that free pass, and he said a lot of work just for the C-bar to go away again. So hopefully those connection issues will resolve themselves, and he'll be able to actually drive a little bit. But we'll see.
Yeah, just a difficult note for guys like that, right? Justin Vandermarl, not someone who really needs those mechanical style gremlins to be popping up, right? He's that entire team has really suffered from them this season, and obviously we've seen that you can overcome it, right? Ethan Stanley's running 19th right now, and that's a guy with top 5's pace in this race. I think give him some track position, and he could potentially win this thing still. So, we'll see if they can be overcome in this one, but. For Random Marl, it might be a little bit more difficult given that he got damage from his mechanical gremlins.
So this time we should see the lights go out on the iRacing Pace vehicle.
Yep, 30 laps to go here, and they will begin to double up. Ethan Burrell with that very impressive drive from 6th, restarting that last time through all the way up to the race lead. Just had a different gear on corner entry where he was and corner exit where he was able to just put the power down in a way that no one else really has been the rest of this race. Matthew Weeks running second, Tate Lytle running third. I believe, with the exception of Jesse Racimus under the caution, those three have led the entirety of this race. Justin Wadsworth will restart fourth. He had a very good restart last time, got up into second, unable to grab that race lead away from these Pro Edge Toyotas. Tyler Fode will restart 5th. Scott Crump will restart 6th. And it seems, I don't know about you, Zach, it seems like Fode and Crump just haven't quite had that pace to get into this trio of Pro Edge Toyotas and you actually give them a battle. It seems like they're just hanging on the periphery of this top 5 and kind of hoping for the race to end.
Yeah, I feel like that's the case. I mean, there is certainly the possibility that maybe they're leaving a little bit on the table. That's typically not their style, especially Crump's, but
yeah.
Certainly it feels like there's just a little bit there that for whatever reason those Toyotas have up, those 3 Toyotas up front that the rest of the field just doesn't have in the pocket right now.
right? And I wonder if some of these guys behind, maybe a Zach Rogers, a Nick Indelicato, Ryan Gable, and back into the top 10 there. You give them some track position, maybe they can make some big charges at these Pro Edge Toyotas, but they'll have to fight through those Lake Norman Chevys to get there, and we know how difficult those guys are to pass. Pace car is off. Ethan Burrell, Matthew Weeks, Tate Lytle, the front three, they will restart. Burrell and Lytle get a good jump. Weeks holding back a little bit that outside line. Wadsworth getting to the back bumper of the 11 and shoving it forward here down the front straightaway. Both Pro Edge Toyotas get to the top.
A little bit tame by Pocono restart standards. I think we only saw 3 wide going into turn 1, but here we go.
Wadsworth got the wall. A bunch of guys got the wall.
They made up for it on corner exit, but right now it looks like we're all pointed. Somebody is blinking a ton.
Zach
I believe that was Zach Rogers, indeed. And, man, that's not the sight you want to see in a big pack like this.
If Tyler Fode has that extra gear that these Pro Edge Toyotas have, it is time to pull it out. He dives it in on Matthew Weeks, uses that 11 car up. Those two have been rubbing and bouncing off each other. Now Weeks back down to the 40 car. He is not real happy, but those two have raced each other exactly like that for each of the last 3 seasons.
Boy, I would not want to be Scott Crump or Justin Wadsworth right now. They are in a hornet's nest at the moment, and I'm sure they're going to try to squeak by on the inside and get out of Dodge before that gets any worse. Justin Wadsworth is able to
almost
clear.
got the wall.
Oh!
Now he gets into the side of Scott Crump, and Corey Abbott's wrecking in the back. Caution flag is out. Oh, here we go. Keep it on these two. Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. Weeks is displeased with the 40 car, but it's very interesting because they've raced like that a lot, and then all the last championship season, they're sitting there talking each other up. These are the best guys you race against, and all that. They're tough to pass, but they race you clean, and they traded a little paint last week at Texas. And now the gloves are off.
Well, you know what they say, familiarity breeds contempt. Contempt might be a little strong for the most part, but right now they certainly aren't big fans of each other at the moment.
No, and we saw a lot of Tyler Fode playing strong defense last season against Matthew Weeks specifically, as it looks like Richie Hearn got a little high, got to the wall, and then it just so happened that Corey Abbott was side by side with someone when he tried to sweep underneath, and it winds up catching the 21 and spinning it out against the back straightaway wall.
It's the guy to the inside would have been Chris Stouffer, so unfortunately Corey Abbott found himself in a little bit of a 4D racewear sandwich and ends up across the nose of Richie Hearn.
Yeah. Definitely frustrating there for the two of them, and especially frustrating for Corey, who qualified up inside the top 10. He had been running very well, but ultimately has found himself back in the field now after pitting on that last restart. To jump quickly back to this Matthew Weeks and Tyler Fode ordeal, I would have thought the lid, the dam to some negative feelings would have been broken last year. They raced very hard for a number of our races, and in such a way that did damage Weeks' championship hopes, where he was not locked in going into that final race. And in so doing, it caused him to have to get up there and win at Richmond, which he did. So, Matthew Weeks goes in and wins at Richmond, then wins the championship, and it works out, right? It works out for the 11 car, but he had to fight tooth and nail to get there against Tyler Fode. And those guys, all they did was talk up and respect each other, and now we're seeing some door slamming in a track it's difficult to pass. These guys are going to have to use each other up if you want to catch Ethan Burrell. And we talked about that earlier tonight too, right? Is what are you going to do going into turn 1 on that final lap? If you can send it in there and door slam a guy a little bit, get him up the track, and get him out of the groove, he's not going to be able to get back to you. So that might be the race-winning move, and we've seen it with the 40 and the 11 rubbing fenders there in turn 3.
Just a note, Corey Abbott, Brent Jones, Justin Vandermarl, Richie Hearn, Jesse Racimus on pit road under this caution. Obviously, some of those guys were getting damage repair, but I think for Brent Jones and Justin Vandermarl, just something a little different. You're already fairly far back in the field for those guys. Maybe some fresh tires will let them drive up through the field, pass some guys here, and steal a little bit of a decent finish out of the evening.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus, there's plenty of potential carnage to come. You probably want as much grip as possible to potentially deal with guys swinging all over the place and potentially having to jam on your brakes. I want to give a call to Ethan Stanley, who is now 14th after being disconnected from this race and having to rejoin. He is having a really good night. The other call I want to make, and it's probably going to result in him immediately being wrecked, but Michael Goodman has rebounded from an early race spin. He is now 21st. Racing for Mama. Happy birthday, Mrs. Goody.
Happy birthday. Oh, she's even on the hood. Look at that.
On the hood. He said he wanted to keep her clean, and he obviously spun out earlier, but she's looking clean so far. He hasn't lost the hood yet.
But unfortunately, I talked about before the race. This is very much. We've already seen some of those emotions on the track. I hope I'm wrong, but this and I hope we get out of this restart clean. But this is shaping up where it could be one of those kind of messy restarts.
Yeah.
Right? I think you're gonna see a lot more to 3 and 4 wide into the corners. A lot more rooting and gouging, trying to get that track position, and that usually doesn't work out.
No. You also got the two guys who are are a little bit self-expressed anger at each other right now, lined up nose to tail on the outside lane, and if 11 gets any sort of run on the 40, takes it 3 wide, there might not be room there. Certainly some potential for issues throughout the field here. Before we get started and wad 'em up, I want to call out Trey Holmes, running 9th for Fueled Up Racing. We've seen the struggles for Fueled Up Racing this season. Trey did manage to bring home a really strong run last week. I think he and Jordan Owens is also part of Fueled Up, and they were 5th and 6th last week, had a really good run. But Trey has followed it up with a good run tonight, and it makes you wonder what could have been in that Daytona 500. He's usually really strong on those drafting tracks. This track a little bit drafty. Trey Holmes is up in the top 10. That does not surprise me.
Indeed, a strong showing for Trey Holmes in that 88 car. He's going to be restarting 9th here. Getting ready for that restart. Just a few moments. Barney will make the hard left-hand turn, and we will be back racing with 24 laps to go here in the IndyCar 1909.com 200.
Ace car is off. Ethan Burrell on the loud pedal, and Matthew Weeks got that jump, got to the back bumper of Tyler Fode, but it looks like they'll just be jammed in as the Lake Norman Chevys down to the bottom of Wadsworth and Crump. They'll have that inside line. Nobody up at the front fanned out, tried to go 3 wide. It's Wadsworth and Lytle side by side for second behind Ethan Burrell. Wadsworth had a really good turn 1, but I don't think he's going to have a good corner exit.
Wadsworth up the hill somehow keeps it out of the wall. But Tate Lytle's going to have the run. Tate Lytle's got to get in front of Justin Wadsworth for that second position. Now Wadsworth is going to have Scott Crump looking to his inside through turn 2.
Matthew Weeks just bump drafted Tyler Fode on the entrance of turn 3. Fode hung on to it and hung on to the spot, but I'd keep my eye on those two right now.
And look at Scott Crump working alongside. Justin Wadsworth really fires it into turn 3. He's got to try to throw the slider, get in front of that 6 car. He will do that, but now who's got to get the run out of 3?
Weeks slammed the door on Tyler Fode behind that duo of the Lake Norman Chevys. Now Weeks trying to run that top lane with Fode on the bottom of the racetrack once again.
23 laps to go now. You see Tyler Fode throwing it to the bottom. Boy, Trey up the hill there. And now Matthew Weeks trying to get around Justin Wadsworth. They got a little bit stacked up on the high side out of turn number 1.
Absolutely excellent restart. By the way, for that orange car, Chris Wright has now teamed up with Nick Massey there, 7th and 8th. The couple of Mountain Man Motorsports Chevrolets, they're looking to move forward. And now Nick Massey, Matthew Weeks, well, the spinner. I say Matthew Weeks started teaming up there with Tyler Fode. Unfortunately, that gets cut short as Jordan Owens gets spun down the short chute. After a 5th place run last week, he had such a strong start to the season. He was running well in the Daytona 500 before getting spun out as well. Let's take a look and see what happened to the 16 car. He said right hook. I think Jake Scarborough might have a little bit of contact with him here. I don't know if Jordan came up or if Scarborough might have came down just a little bit.
It's hard to tell from that angle, but I'm going to wager from that position Jordan Owens was expecting the 52 of Jake Scarborough to be a little closer to the wall.
Yeah. Yeah, Scarborough about a half lane off the wall where you'd kind of expect that car to run, and Raymond Hanneman nowhere to go in the 85 runs right into the Jordan Owens car and sends it careening into the inside wall, thus causing all the damage. Yeah, right there, and then Owens does impact the inside wall, but that's it. 2-car incident here.
Yeah, it's hard to say. You might even be able to go on board with the 52. I wonder if he was a little bit out of shape out of turn 2, and that's why he wasn't up against the wall. It looked like he was maybe chasing the steering a little bit from that angle. We'll see if we can get a better look at it here.
Obviously running that top in the tunnel turn, already, prone to making the car a little bit more unstable. And if you're able to wrap that yellow line, you also have to pay attention to keeping it out of the wall. So Scarborough was a little turned hard to the left on corner exit. And I think he tried to straighten it up just a little bit too late. That car was already a little bit hooked to the left.
Yeah, you could see him trying to counter steer to the right when the contact was made. He knew he was not where he wanted to be. So definitely not intentional contact between those two cars. It'll be interesting to see what race control decides to do with that, because I think there's a case for both sides there. You could say 52 could have given a little more room. You can say the 16 ultimately worked his way up the hill when there was a car there. It could be a racing deal. It could go either way. We'll see.
Yeah, it's one of those where I talked to Gerald about this last season a couple of times, and I would think if you can't immediately tell, toss it on. You toss it on racing deal. But you see there, Robert Hill Race Control, they give it to Jake Scarborough, and I think I'm fine with that call. I would have been fine with the racing deal there as well.
I'm fine with that. Ultimately, I do agree that probably the largest contributing factor was the 52 getting a little out of shape exiting turn 2. It wasn't a huge bobble by any means, but you could tell he was trying to regain control of that 52 working along the outside.
Right, and ultimately the tally system here is a recurring offender penalty, right? It's much less of a one-time penalty item, so Jake Scarborough in no trouble per se, but in the future, if Scarborough causes a few more incidents, he would get penalized if he accrues too many tallies in too short of a time.
Regardless, we're going to restart with, I believe, 19 to go. The lights are still on the pace car, so the lights will probably go out with 20 to go and give us a restart with 19 to go. Ethan Burrell leading, Tate Lytle second, Scott Crump third, Tyler Fode fourth, Matthew Weeks fifth. Justin Wadsworth kind of slipped to sixth on that restart, Nick Massey seventh, and then, of course, you mentioned Chris Wright, the huge charge he made on that restart, how important those restarts can be for turning your fortunes in a race. And then you have Nick and Delicato, and oh, by the way, Ethan Stanley's back in the top 10.
He is. He has arrived back into the top 10. He's within shouting distance of his teammates. I would not count out that 91 car until the checkered flag flies, and he is not taking it. And we've also sitting in 11th, Trey Holmes. Ryan Schultz sits in 12th, having another good run. Schultz been pretty strong this season. You got Ryan Gable sitting 13th. Chad Frankefield's on a march back towards the front of his own in 14th for another one of those little Eagle Fords. So good run for him. And we haven't talked about Seth Rawls all day, but he's worked up to 16th, and he's sitting alongside Ty McIntosh there in his Shifty Sports team car. So a couple of Fords there in row 8. Jeff Green, Justin Fortner in row 9, and then Scarborough and a Leighton Norgard round out that top 20. I think we might be approaching chaos o'clock here, Zach.
Man, I hope not. But unfortunately, the laps are ticking down. The 2 is going to switch to a 1 in the tens column this time. We've seen, again, how important it is to get as much ground as you can on these restarts, which encourages some bold moves that sometimes work out and sometimes do not. We mostly survived that last one up until, obviously, the incident with Jake Scarborough and Jordan Owens, but we were probably a lap away from getting out of the danger zone, right? But here we are, right back in it.
Right back in it, and we've got these Pro Edge Toyotas. They have fired off, like clockwork, lined up on the outside every single time here. Let's see what Ethan Burrell and Tate Lytle do this time. I imagine that 37 will fire off early, jump to the top in front of his teammate, and then they'll roll into turn 1. And that's exactly what they do. Burrell off to a really good start. Weeks with a really big push. Weeks going to look 3 wide around Scott Crump. He thinks better of it. Dips back in behind the 90 car. See if Scott Crump has anything for these Pro Edge Toyotas. He dove it in there, did Scott Crump.
Oh boy, yes he did. He's trying to get that second spot away. Oh, they're spinning behind him. This is gonna be a big wreck.
That's a big mess. Big wreck on the back straightaway here. I've seen real life incidents that look just like that. I've seen iRacing incidents that look just like that. About 10 cars involved on the back straightaway. Raymond Hanneman, Jake Scarborough, looked like Jesse Racimus again.
The first car
Chad
I saw around on
Frankenfield.
my end was Chad Frankenfield. We'll see.
I think.
Oh, is this friendly fire? Oh no!
Wait. Oh yeah, I think that is gonna be. And I can't. You look at the front of the field, right, and the way those Toyotas work. They don't bounce off of team cars, and it looks like Chad gets sent down the racetrack into the 25, and he's going to come up the track and collect Jeff Green, Leighton Norgard, Christopher,
and then this
everybody
is
else.
Yeah, Jake Scarborough's around, and now it's just a track blocking situation. You see Richie Hearn get into the wall, trying to avoid it.
Who is that spun around to the inside of Chad here? I can't quite make it out.
I could only make out the Corona on the quarter panel. I'm not.
Corona on the quarter panel, that would be Josh Personette in the 18 car then.
Okay.
If it was Corona. He is the Corona car. And we will get a tally for Chad Frankenfield for causing this one. And yeah, I mean, just as I was going to say, you look at the front of the field, look at these guys working together. These Pro Edge Toyotas, these Lake Norman Chevys, excellent teamwork. I really do think, I don't think Chad needed to be going 3 wide right there. And we talked about the potential for chaos, the potential for bad and bold moves on these restarts, and wrecking into your teammate, taking your teammate 3 wide. That's a bold and bad move, I would say. We watch what happens to.
Yeah, a little further back in the field, getting an idea what happened to collect some of these other drivers. I mean, obviously, what collected them was, at this point, the track is pretty much blocked.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. Of course, there's Leighton Norgard squeezed into the wall. Personette about had it woed up, but I think he got a little bit of a tag from Richie Hearn, and maybe that turns him across the nose of that other car. I can't make out in the smoke. It might be McIntosh. I'm not sure.
I think McIntosh is in front of this.
Well, see, that's
Wait,
what
maybe
I
not.
thought too, but those pink numbers make me think McIntosh. I don't know.
Yeah, we need the down the back straightaway cam if we've got it there, Dave, where you're like on corner exit of, or you're corner entry of turn 2.
I think that's Brent Jones in the 89 that I was seeing.
Sorry, they're not labeled down the backstretch.
Sorry. I don't know how else to describe it. It's been an hour or so since we had the discussion on the cams. It's like Dewar's going to get some damage here. Yeah, Brent Jones.
Yeah, that is
the
going
car.
to be Brent Jones that ends up having Personette spin across his nose.
Yeah, Racimus, Corey Abbott gets wrecked in this.
Carlos Acosta has quite a view, I believe.
Yeah, he'd be a good one to go on board with, though. He did get damage in this.
So here he is about middle of 4 wide. And then the wreck's going to start in front of him. He does a really good job here.
Oh, and it closes up.
The door closes, gets to the bottom here. Does
Johnny
all
Tom-
right with the situation.
Yeah, Johnny Thomas and Michael Goodman might be good onboards. Johnny has shot up to 17th on the racetrack right now. I don't believe he was anywhere near 17th before that restart. I think he was in the mid 30s.
So we'll go on board with the 83 of Johnny Thomas. There's the wreck.
Oops, slow,
The good
slow,
news is
slow.
he's on the bottom.
On the gas.
Yeah.
And you're good. Seth Rawls, Kyle Hanshaw also making it through that one.
Yeah, definitely being on the bottom was a huge help there because obviously that wreck washed up the hill towards the outside wall. So a pretty good break for Johnny Thomas there to be able to just drive it onto the apron and get out unscathed.
Jordan Owens got the same fate. I think then following behind them a little bit was Michael Goodman, keeping Mama clean on the nose of the 44 car.
So we're going to try this again with 15 laps to go. There you see Ethan Burrell and Scott Crump will be the front row for this restart.
Tay Lytle not on the front row for the first time in quite a while, though. I imagine that gives a big benefit to Matthew Weeks, who will now restart behind his teammate. They'll be able to get the call and hit the gas right about the same time. You'll see some very good teamwork, I think, from those Pro Edge Toyotas, but lined up right behind them are a pair of Mountain Man Motorsports Chevys, and Nick Massey and Chris Wright, that really haven't been up there all day. They might try to make a little bit of noise here. I know Nick Massey's hungry for a win. It's been a minute since we've seen that 48 car go to victory lane.
It has, and again, we're gonna have another one of these crazy Pocono restarts. We'll see if maybe he can make a big move to get himself in the mix here.
Maybe the big move is just sitting on the top lane here on this restart. We'll see what happens. Base car is off, and Scott Crump's got to give it a big gap to Burrell. He tried to go and get that timed well. He did not. Nick Massey's going to get a big run. Matthew Weeks is going to get a big run, and down to the bottom goes Nick and Delicato. They're pushing and shoving, beating and banging into turn one. It's Pro Edge with Burrell, Weeks, then it's Crump, and Chris Wright got turned in front of the field by Fody.
Oh!
And they're going to still want him up, and Tyler Fody's going to wreck it with Chris Wright. And that's going to be a big damage for a couple of guys who've been up front a majority of the day. They're still wrecking down the back. Wright just got turned. Rawls is in it. Caution's out.
9th caution of the evening. Big damage there for Tyler Fody. We'll take a look at the replay.
It happened even before this. It was on corner entry, but they were stacked up so tight. I think Fody maybe just got Chris Wright on entry of the corner there, and that got the 9 car sideways. And Chilo checked up, tried to avoid him, but then that netcode clipped the 40 car up into the air when they were side by side, and that's going to take out Michael Hosack. And then Fody gets spun in front of the field. Ty McIntosh is going to get involved in this. Rawls has nowhere to go once they come down the track. Hanshaw got the inside wall a ton.
And now here, Wright and Rawls are gonna be tangled up, and that not Mama Goody.
Oh. On my screen, Mama Goody's still on the 44 car. Yep, she's good.
I somehow, against all odds, Mama Goody got through that one.
Oof. We saw her flash before our eyes there. This is shaking up the running order. We'll take a look here, and
a little bit of a hip check, but that's all right. Oh!
He did bounce off of the 9 car, but I don't think the damage is very severe on the 44 there.
See, this is never fun, because missing 1 wreck is bad enough, right? Okay, all right. It's
We're
the
good.
second wreck that you're always like, oh, make it stop. Make it stop.
Wow. Michael Goodman running 20th. After all of that. Fody Wright with big damage. An update that Jake Scarborough, Raymond Hanneman, Justin Vandermarl, Zach Rogers have all dropped from the running order here. Jesse Racimus remains 1 lap down with heavy damage, and then obviously the very heavily damaged cars of Tyler Fode, Chris Wright, Carlos Acosta, Jeff Green, Chad Frankenfield, Chris Stouffer, Dustin Dewar, Kyle Hanshaw, and a Leighton Norgard continue to pit for damage. So does Seth Rawls after that wreck. Michael Hosak, Ty McIntosh. We're really down to about 19, 21 cars that are undamaged. Even then, I think Richie Hearn and Brent Jones have been involved in a few wrecks, and we're calling a racing deal. That's on the big wreck, right?
Yes.
Or that's on the Tyler Fode, Chris Wright wreck.
Yeah. They are
Yep.
taking away. I believe that was originally ruled on Fode, and that has been amended.
Yeah, I think that's the right call. Fode, the initial contact to me is a racing deal, just getting into turn 1 on a very aggressive late race restart at Pocono. The contact after is, in all intents and purposes, a chaotic attempt to avoid contact, but with absolutely nowhere to go. There's cars on your inside, cars on your outside, and you're expected to dodge all of them and stay off the guy who you've already bumped into and slowed way down. That's never going to work.
Raymond Hanneman says in the YouTube chat here on the Elite Racing Network, he is still going back out as soon as the car is fixed.
Very nice. He's got some spots to make up for sure. At least 2. Vandermarl and Scarborough are off track in front of him.
Yeah, if he can get out before the end of the race, he'd be able to pick up at least 2 spots. And then you never know if he's able to get out within the next couple of laps and it goes into overtime or whatever. You might pick off some of these guys that are also on pit road getting repairs or have left the section.
You might see it if this thing continues to go chaotic, as it currently seems to be going. And Raymond is our only rookie in the race.
I mean, to that point, points really matter to the open drivers because you want to be first in that priority line when a charter opens up.
Mm-hmm.
So, absolutely, he wants to get as many points as he can out of this evening, even if it means going back out several laps down.
Right. So, as for a bunch of these guys, just a tough break for Raymond Hanneman. We look up front. Ethan Burrell continues to lead this race. Since that charge to the front, he has not relinquished the lead. Matthew Weeks, since his contact with Tyler Fode, who is now wrecked, he is going to restart second with an opportunity to win this race. Nick Massey restarts third. Scott Crump restarts in fourth. I was going to say the remaining Lake Norman driver, but Ethan Stanley's running in seventh. Tate Lytle's back in fifth. Nick Indelicato has risen to sixth. Then it's Ethan Stanley 7th. Trey Holmes will be 8th. Ryan Gavel's up to 9th. Ryan Schold will round out the top 10. And then Justin Wadsworth, who's been in the top 5 all day, is now going to restart 11th after having to check up for that wreck before the caution came out.
This might be the first time we've seen either of the Ryans in the top 10 this evening. I could be wrong on that.
This evening, yes. They finished, I think, in the top 10 in each of our previous 2 races. So that's a couple of guys having a good run, good points run so far, but you got to make 12 more laps. Pace car is off. Ethan Burrell's going to fire it up in front, and he's going to get a big jump on the rest of the field. Up top goes Ryan Gavel. He moved in behind his teammate. Actually, not behind his teammate. That's behind Trey Holmes, but he's going to try to jump alongside his teammate, Ethan Stanley. They're 3 wide for third. Scott Crump's the one that gets shot up the racetrack. And they're going to save it, but Ethan Stanley's the car who hit the run on the bottom of the track, and Stanley trying to overcome that penalty of being disconnected from the server. He's trying to move forward here.
And it got really tight between Indelicato and I believe that was Crump going into turn number 2. Fortunately, able to get through it, but
they're 4 wide back there in the very back of the field. They're trying to wad them up front. Burrell, Weeks, Tate Lytle. The way it's been all day continues to be the way that it is. Oh, Fortner out of shape down the front straightaway. He's going to spin it out. Yellow flag is out. A single car spin. brings out the caution for the 10th time, and Ethan Burrell has dropped due to packet loss. Oh no!
That is a terrible, terrible break for Ethan Burrell. Obviously, we'll look at the replay here to see what happened to Justin Fortner. It looks like
He
Johnny
scraped the
Thomas?
wall in front of him.
Yeah, Johnny Thomas got a piece of the wall in front of him, and Justin got out of shape trying to stay off of the 83 car.
Slight bit of contact on the inside wall, but ultimately harmless. And what's worst for Fortner will be that he is going to lose all that track position from right around the back end of the top 10. Burrell is connected back. He'll try to earn a few points, but a very disappointing result it'll be. And what a fortune for Matthew Weeks, who it didn't look like was going to be able to pass his teammate. Ethan Burrell looked like he had this field covered.
Raymond Hanneman chiming in. Actually, his car is done.
Oh, might have left it running on pit road.
That's actually quite a likely culprit.
Yeah, for the uninitiated, if you leave the iRacing car running on pit road, the engine will explode, and they will give the tally to Fortner.
Ethan Burrell has been able to reconnect. I don't know.
He's gone again.
It's gone again. Oh my goodness.
What a disaster of a break for Ethan Burrell, who dominated this race from the pole, his third consecutive pole. Just a disaster of a result. Fortunately for Ethan, he accumulated so many points at Daytona. He's gotten pole points. He's led laps in all of our races so far. He will not be down in points. He's also already got the race win that lock him into the playoffs, but Ethan was certainly looking to get win number 2.
I'm sorry to interrupt you with laughing. I did notice Raymond Hanneman did make a lap. He picked up those 2 spots. He did chime in the chat. The car just can't steer.
There you go.
So that's why he has brought it back to pit road. We are watching Barney wave frantically. Oh, is that our fella? No, that's Kyle Hanshaw.
Burrell disconnect happened right as the caution came out. So if you want it, that's where I would go. We'll go back to live, I think. Up front, it'll be Matthew Weeks leading his teammate Tate Lytle. They're down to 2 Pro Edge cars now at the front of this field. Nick Massey will restart 3rd. Ethan Stanley has made an incredible comeback to get to 4th place. He's now got every opportunity to go out and win this race. Scott Crump will restart 5th. Nick Indelicato restarts in 6th. Trey Holmes will restart 7th. Ryan Gavel will restart 8th. Justin Wadsworth will restart 9th. And Ryan Schold will go from 10th. How about a comeback, couple of comeback stories, couple of guys that got wadded up before this recent run of chaos started. Jordan Owens up to 12th after getting spun down the short chute. Corey Abbott got wadded up in the back straightaway wall. He is now 13th.
I mentioned a couple of seasons ago this race had 12 cautions. You know who won that race in 2022A?
Was it Matthew Weeks?
It was indeed the driver of the 11 car, Matthew Weeks.
We got Ethan Burrell. We've got about 2 minutes since we got another lap. Let's bring him up and discuss the issue, I suppose, for the dominant driver of the evening. That is Ethan Burrell. And Ethan, disappointing for sure, but take us through what happened. And did you feel like you had him covered, man? Because that drive through the field when you fell back after pit stops, that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I felt great. I felt like I really did everything right, was making the right moves. It was hard to pass on the bottom, but I found a way on that start you were talking about, and just no warning, just booted me out of the session. It won't even let me load back in, I don't think. But I don't really know what happened. The internet's fine and everything, but I guess we'll just call it a virtual racing engine failure or something. I don't know. I hate it. It sucks, man, especially being out front, but it is what it is.
Certainly heartbreaking for you, but fortunately you've still got a couple of those team cars out front. How do you feel about the team's chances going into this upcoming restart?
I feel good. I hope one of those guys get it done. I really wanted for me to win it, of course, but it doesn't really make me feel too much better if one of them wins, I'll be honest, but it would be cool. It'd be preferred, but yeah, man, nothing I can really do about it.
Tough break, but hey, at least you're locked into the playoffs with that Daytona 500 win, and hey, 3 poles in a row. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, we'll take it, man. I don't think anyone's done that before.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, at least in my time here. So congratulations on the good run, Ethan, and hopefully your internet stays with us all week next week.
All right, thanks, guys.
That was Ethan Burrell, the dominant driver of the day, out early with, we'll call it engine failure, but internet connection failure. And hands the lead over to Matthew Weeks. And alongside him will be his teammate Tate Lytle on this restart with 7 coming to 6 laps to go. Weeks with a big jump, jumps up to the, he stayed down. Tate Lytle jumped down to the bottom, and it's going to pull Ethan Stanley through. Here comes Johnny Thomas 3 wide down to the bottom. That's back in the field a little bit.
Johnny Thomas 3 wide with Justin Wadsworth and Ryan Schold as they make their way out of turn number 1. Meanwhile, Matthew Weeks out in front, trying to keep that field at bay.
Ethan Stanley gave Tate Lytle a big push down the back straightaway. It cleared both of them by Nick Massey. Now the Knicks will battle between Nick and Massey and Indelicato for 4th. That'll be won by Massey for now, but Ethan Stanley has recovered to 3rd. He's still got a chance, but he's got to run down those 2 Pro Edge Toyotas.
Out of turn 3, Matthew Weeks, Tate Lytle, Ethan Stanley, the top 3. Nick Massey up to 4th.
Caution's out.
We've got caution on
Wreck.
the track.
Like Personette, maybe? No. We had 1 spinner.
Somebody had nose damage, it looked like.
They were 3 wide there in the mid-pack coming out of the tunnel turn last time by. The pace car picks us up for the 11th caution of the night. We'll look back and see who it is on the Rubilis replay cam.
I don't have anybody tagged. Who is it?
It looked like Ty McIntosh on the thing, but let's see. I saw Personette drop very quickly. Oh, it's
6?
a Leighton Norgard and Justin Fortner. That'd be Norgard's 2nd of the day? Nope.
Nope, that would be Fortner's
That's
2nd of the
Fortner's.
day.
Oh, the Fortner's 2nd of the day for sure. That right front tire is not pointed the right direction. I don't know if anybody's going to have anything for Matthew Weeks with only 2 laps. You saw how far out front the lead car got. It would take, I think, a bit of a miracle to catch him now.
So I've had to fact check Ethan Burrell there. I couldn't help myself. And I thought he was right. I really was feeling good about it, and I'm kind of inclined to give it to him anyway. We did have a stretch of 3 Ethan poles in the row in 2023B. Burrell, then Stanley, then Burrell again. But that's not 3 in a row. That's just 3 Ethans in a row. However, if you go back to the inaugural, Elite Cup Series season. I regret to inform our viewing audience, Chad Frankenfield had 4 pole positions in a row. So no pressure,
Wow.
Ethan. No pressure, Ethan. We need you to get that 4th pole next week.
That'll be Darlington, I believe. If we look ahead, I'm pretty sure it's Darlington.
I'm trusting you. It is Darlington for the
Aha, I knew it.
Den Decor Oh no, no, that's not the name of the race.
That one, it. Try again.
Den Decor Depot Southern 500.
There we go.
Boy. Tate Lytle took the pole for last year's Southern 500. R.C. Enerson picking up the win.
Yep, the Southern 500, the second of 3 full distance races that we will run this season. So we will be here for, what's that, 393 laps at Darlington?
367. Again, that Clemson math, you know.
Yeah. It's 293 for the 400 miler. It's 367 for the 500 miler.
And then we have the Bristol night race on September 25th. That'll be 500 laps.
That'll be a race, all right. I hope they can do a little better at Darlington, but yeah, I'm not trusting anything at Bristol. We managed 11 cautions at Pocono. Look at all the space they have to run there, and then got to pack 40 cars tightly up into Darlington and Bristol for full distance. We might be there a while.
It's kind of like we saw in the ARCA race last night at Phoenix. When you have these wide racetracks, in a weird way you would think that gives you so much room to get away from people. But really, it just sometimes ends up being more room for people to attempt maneuvers that maybe they should not.
And we run into it for sure in this elite racing league, and from time to time you have a bit of a disaster race like you have tonight, and we ran well at the beginning, but as this thing's gone down to crunch time, we've just piled caution after caution. And I don't think we'll get him on camera here. The camera's starting to shift, but Ethan Burrell is back on the racetrack, 34th place, 1 lap down. He needs another caution to get back on the lead lap, and then I think after that he'll need us to use the requisite 3 green-white checkers to have an opportunity to get back into this thing. We've seen it already happen. The 91 car of Ethan Stanley running 3rd, that car has disconnected from this race, reconnected, and climbed all the way through the field to get back up to 3rd place. So it is possible, but there might not be enough laps for poor Ethan Burrell. This is a natural green-white checkered here as the green flag waves, coming to 2 to go. Matthew Weeks on the loud pedal. Ethan Stanley touching the back bumper of that Tate Lytle car. Nick Massey trying to hold those guys down on the outside. Weeks clears ahead, and they'll be side by side for 2nd going into turn 1. Now here comes Ethan Stanley with a big run to the bottom.
Big run for Ethan Stanley, and they're wrecking behind him.
No caution yet. Tate Lytle tries to take 2nd back over just in case that yellow does fly, and it does not. Stanley trying to hold off Tate Lytle. He cannot. Tate Lytle up to 2nd. Nick Massey clears for 4th. It's now between Nick and Delicato and Ryan Gable for 5th.
Nick and Delicato, Ryan Gable side by side. Gable in the outside in the 01 and Delicato on the inside in the blue car in the 10. But ahead of that, the field's coming to the white flag here at Pocono, presented by Whiplash SimCamp.
Let's see if they can get it. Matthew Weeks gets the white flag. We will finish this lap no matter what. Matthew Weeks now is going to see Tate Lytle and Ethan Stanley. Here comes Stanley with a big run to the bottom. Can Stanley get there on Matthew Weeks? He dives it in. He's going to get into the 11 car. Ethan Stanley to the lead. Here comes Lytle back to the inside.
Can Lytle get there?
Nick Massey's got a big run. Massey now back behind the Chevy.
Through the tunnel turn, Tate Lytle fires it in, but is he going to be able to make it stick, or is Ethan Stanley going to be able to cross over? No!
What a tunnel turn by Tate Lytle. It's now all up to turn 3. Can Ethan Stanley go after the race win? He dives it in on the outside, gonna try to get the run down the hill. I don't think it's gonna be enough. Stanley's on the gas, but he's loose. It's gonna be Tate Lytle is gonna take the win at Pocono for Pro Edge over Ethan Stanley and Nick Massey. They're wrecking now on the front straightaway. Michael Hosack. Stanley gets a big bump from Matthew Weeks there after the race. That might be frowned upon by the stewards. Matthew Weeks finishes 4th after leading the white flag lap and having an opportunity, but a big move by Ethan Stanley. The move that we actually talked about well earlier in the night. Going into turn 1, that opened the door for Tate Lytle to take the win home for Pro Edge in a race that it looked like Ethan Burrell had kind of on lock up until the connection issues. He will finish 32nd in this race. Let's take a look at that incident in turn. Actually, this is the finish. Let's see if we can see it back 2 laps, I think. 1 more lap, maybe. Pleased to report Mama Goody did come home clean and intact on the 44 car in 21st place. Here we go. This is the front straightaway coming to the white flag for Matthew Weeks and tries to break the draft by going down to the bottom, but Stanley was pushing Tate Lytle so much that they gave them such a huge run, and ultimately Stanley felt this is the only time he's going to have to go after this race win. He dives it into turn 1, washes up the hill, and knocks into the 11 car. But it slows him up enough that Tate Lytle's able to get to the inside of the 91 and make the pass entering the tunnel turn for the race win.
Man, there was a lot of activity on the front stretch as well. And there you see a little bit of contact there with Matthew Weeks and Ryan Gable. But, I mean, we had an incident with Michael Hosack and Corey Abbott. There was an incident with, let's see, that was Kyle Hanshaw and Chris Stouffer. And while it wasn't an incident, there was a lot of door banging between the Ty McIntosh and Chad Frankenfield machines as well.
Yep, and then we'll watch Matthew Weeks here show his displeasure as you can see those cars crashing in the back. Right there at the bottom of your screen, Weeks got into Ethan Stanley. So let's grab 3rd place finisher Nick Massey. Ask him a couple of questions. I think 1 each since we're already a little bit over time. Nick Massey, 3rd place tonight. We mentioned you there with about 15 laps to go. You were entering the mix. It looked like you just kind of held your lane, bided your time, and wound up on the podium. Take us through your night, buddy.
Yeah, just about summed it up right there. I mean, kind of just hanging out, tailing of the top 10 for most of the night, and then kind of just circumstances there at the end. A couple guys lagging out, having some problems, and kind of just the right lanes, and was able to work my way up through there. And then my eyes got real wide on the last lap. I thought I had a shot there when when Stanley and Weeks got together and checked them all up. I thought I had a shot at a maybe 2nd or 1st there, but they kind of recovered pretty quickly, and I just didn't have big enough of a run to get around Tate and Ethan there. But yeah, overall solid night. Needed that for sure. It's been a while since I've been up here talking to you guys, so
Definitely always good to get back in the booth and get that interview. You talk about kind of the start of the season and how important it is to get this one and get back on track. You take this into, of course, Darlington next week. How do you feel going into the Southern 500?
I'm pretty pumped for that. I mean, I usually run pretty well there, kind of a more driver, what's the word for it? What do you want to call it? Driver oriented track. Yeah, oriented track there. You know, got to save tires, take care of the car, keep it out of the wall. Kind of a long endurance race, so it's kind of more in my wheelhouse. So looking forward to it for sure. Yeah, definitely good to get back up here and talk to you guys, especially after last week and wrecking and wiping out a bunch of guys. Definitely good recovery week.
Gotcha. And any shout outs for us here tonight, Nick?
Yeah, shout out to you guys for on the broadcast. Shout out to Tate for the win. Shout out to my teammates, Chris and Jordan Owens back there. And Chris worked his way up through there, and then unfortunately got caught up one of the wrecks there towards the end. But he was putting himself in position to have a pretty solid night too. So that was unfortunate. But yeah, just shout out to you guys for putting on the broadcast.
All right, Nick. Well, congratulations on the third place, and we'll talk to you next week, hopefully.
Yes, sir. See you guys next week.
Let's bring up second place finisher Ethan Stanley. We'll definitely have a little to talk about with Ethan. So Stanley, you lagged out there in the middle of the race. Take us through your drive back through the top of the field, and then I'll let Zach ask you about that last lap.
Yeah, that was tough. So everybody kind of disappeared. Ended up getting disconnected. I just alt F4 so I wouldn't run into anybody like before. Came back a lap down, got the lap back, and then I was basically on the same strategy as everybody else for the rest of that race. Never got the pit. So I had to fight my way through. Pretty tough. Just gotta be smart on the restarts and just put yourself in the right place.
Talking about those restarts, obviously came down to the natural green-white checkered there at the end. What would it have taken to get around that 56 at the end of the day?
Maybe another lap. I mean, I think I wore my tires out, but I think it's mostly just track position. It's so hard to pass when you got two guys working together at the front. I came up in the weeks. That probably slowed me down a bit too. I mean, I'll give an apology to him, but obviously he's not going to take it. Just probably a couple more laps, maybe another restart. Could have got it.
All right, Ethan, any shout outs for us here before we send you off tonight?
Yeah, of course, as always, big shout out to Blake Marketing and big shout out to JD Designs for making these beautiful paints. Shout out to you guys in the booth for always putting on a great show. And just big shout out to Chad and everybody that runs the league.
All right, well, there's Ethan Stanley, second place tonight after a disconnection. A really impressive run. Congratulations on the second, Ethan, and we'll probably talk to you next week. It's Darlington.
Yeah, I hope so. If I don't get taken out.
All right, that's Ethan Stanley, second place. And now let's grab race winner Tate Lytle. If I can. There we go. Tate, David in the booth. You got me?
I got you.
Bit of a wild night there, Tate, but I'll take you back to running with your teammates there. Do you have anything for Ethan Burrell before he lagged out? That's my biggest question, because you looked like you guys had the field covered tonight.
I mean, we were just going to work together, and it was probably going to end up being him that won it. And obviously that was about as unfortunate of a thing that could probably happen. And then at that point, I was just trying to make sure one of the team guys got it, and I was committed to just pushing weeks because I felt like Stanley was a little faster than us. And Stanley threw it in there to one, which, I mean, I guess he had to do. That was his only shot, was to try and make it stick, but got into weeks, and I was able to cruise through and drive around him on the bottom in the tunnel turn. But yeah, I don't really love winning him when you don't feel like you necessarily deserve it. I felt like I was the third most deserving car on my team, let alone in the race, but you got to be in the right spots at the right time. Still cool to win. I appreciate my dad and my little sister Louise, little brother Jack, and everyone out there are still watching even after the 97 cautions that we had tonight. So shout out to them for still watching. Glad I could get the win for little Louise and Jack. But shout out to Brent Wentz, Days Gone By, Vintage Racing Apparel, Race EPI, you guys for watching us race fake race cars, for how that was a solid 2 hours. So yeah, good way to spend a Wednesday night, but I wish we did more racing and less pacing.
Definitely, I think we can all echo that sentiment. But I mean, you talk about the pass for the win there. I don't know if anybody had a better tunnel turn all night than you did, passing Ethan Stanley for the win. Did you know that was gonna stick when you threw it in there?
I mean, to be honest with you, after he used up weeks in one, I was taking the exit off of two. Whether that wrecked me, him, or both of us, I was taking the exit. That was mine. I know he didn't do it on purpose, but when you use up a teammate, you got to defend your own, and that's what I was going to do. So I'm glad that he backed out of it and didn't pull anything else. But nice little rivalry between us and Lake Norman, brewing more than usual right now. So that'll be fun for y'all for the rest of the season.
For sure. And you kind of always give us our shout outs. So let me take you to next week at Darlington. You think I don't know who won that. You said RC won, but you won the pole last year at Darlington. Got a shot in the 500 miler?
I mean, probably as good a shot as anybody. I don't know. I love Darlington. it's kind of weird in this car, but normally I don't love the 500 milers, but honestly I don't have anything better to do, so I'm looking forward to spending 4 hours of my life doing that next Wednesday.
All right. Race winner Tate Lytle. We'll see you next week, Tate. Probably up here. You've been really good so far this season.
Hopefully, yeah. Kind of got dogged a little bit last week. Got in a couple accidents and had some damage that wasn't repairable, and I think I ended up 16th or 17th. But we got a drop week, and right now a win and a second with a stage win with 19 stage points at Daytona. I would imagine, especially after Ethan's misfortunes tonight, we should be the point leader by a decent margin. So hopefully we can continue that, and if 16th's our drop week, I like our chances.
Got it, buddy. Congratulations. We'll see you next week.
Guys, later.
And that is Tate Lytle, the race winner. So, final thoughts here after Pocono, Zach, and 500 miles next week at Darlington.
Man, not the race you want to see going into a 500 miler at Darlington. You already know how little there is for give and take at Darlington, the lady in black, and certainly a lot of nerves are frayed after this one. Hopefully cooler heads will prevail before we get ready for 500 miles next week, but at the end of the day, Tate Lytle comes through it all, picks up the win, punches his ticket to move on to the playoffs here in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series, and we'll see if another ticket gets handed out next week.
Absolutely. I think you said it perfectly for me. So, from David Huckleberry, the producer, Zach Evans, the co-host, David Wetsergreen, this was the at IndyCar1909.com 200 from Pocono, and we'll catch you next week at Darlington.